Good afternoon. Today is the 10th of April in the year 2008. I'm Vance Lossman, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. And part of our mission is to record and preserve the history of our nation's military conflicts, and especially World War II. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in those conflicts. Today, we have the honor and privilege of interviewing Colonel Paul Henderson, who was a pilot in World War II and Korea and in Vietnam. And so we're going to talk with him about that and a lot of other things. Paul, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And you've come well prepared, I know.
Well, recalling a few nice memories. These are the early jet pilots. We got away with a hell of a lot like this. So that's probably where I got a lot of my flying time. Now I'm on my way to Korea. And I know with all my flying
and
time.
You're in the F-84 still.
Yeah. I knew that I'd get over there and I'd either be in the P-80s or the 84s. So I take my new bride and we go to Las Vegas to have a nice fling. And I'd gone through gunnery school out at Nellis. And I'm pretty familiar with Nellis. And I knew some of the friends out there. So I called up this major friend of mine, and I said, hey, is there any way I can get a flight in an F-86? He says, oh, Paul, we're standing down. We've been going at it so much. He says, I don't know. And I said, God, I gotta have an F-86 ride before I hit Korea. And he said, let me check. And he checked, and he called up. He says, okay, come out tomorrow morning. And he says, I think I can get you a flight in one. And he said, do you have any gear? I said, no. He says, I know your size. I'll get you a helmet and a parachute and all. Come out and meet me in this place on the flight line. So I get out there and go in and meet him. And he says, I thought we'd get two and I could chase you. But we only got one. I said, I don't need a chase pilot. I got to get this F-86. He says, okay. He says, well, it's clean. It didn't have drop tanks. So he said, now, you be good, because what I'm doing, letting you fly this 86, I don't want to get into trouble. I said, I'll be particular. I won't do anything bad. So he checks me out in this F-86, and it was an old, what we call the slot locker. The slots on the F-86 to swept wing, the locks, they used to have them where they could lock the slot when they're in altitude so the slots wouldn't come out if you had low speed, and you would only open the slots in the landing pattern. So here I had an old slot locker, and it had been around. It was an early F-86. So I go up and fly it. It was clean, and I stressed out 45 minutes, and it came in, landed, got in, and he said, how was that? Oh, God. I said, oh, really great. I said, any chance this afternoon? He said, no, Paul. He says, I don't want to do it. I said, how about early tomorrow morning? He turned around to the sergeant. He said, Sergeant, do you know anyone to come down and pre-flight this airplane for the captain tomorrow? And he said, well, he says, if it's early enough, I could probably do it. I said, Sergeant, you come down and pre-flight that. I'll throw you the greatest New Year's party you've ever had. I'll supply all the liquor you and your friends can have. Just get down here and pre-flight. Okay, Captain, I'll do it. So I went back, and I came back the next day, and I said, God, I got to get another F-86 ride. So I get in, I go up, and I milk it for all I can. And he's telling me how to go Mach 1. I should feel the roll in that. Yeah. And I Mach 1, and do it out over Lake Mead, not down the strip, because I don't want any sonic booms being told. And I said, oh, I don't need to go Mach 1. I'm burning up too much fuel. So it really eked it out to where I probably had a little over an hour flight coming and land. I take my two transcripts, put them in my Form 5, get over to Japan. We're going through over there, filling out airplanes and most current. And I said, most current, you mean the one I flew last? He said, yeah, put that one down. In big letters, I wrote F-86 on that form and just put down the total flying hours, didn't mention 80, 84 at all. Guess what? I'm assigned to an F-86 outfit at Suwon K-13. And you know what? I'm going back into the 51st Fighter Group, back into the 25th Squadron. That's the one I flew on Okinawa. How lucky can you be? I walk in there as a qualified fighter pilot, and they didn't look at how much F-86 time I did.
hour, right?
About an hour and a half. And so I got a few checkout rides there. And the first thing you know, I go up and fly, I think on my third combat mission, flying the F-86 out of Suwon, K-13. And I'm flying with the squadron commander, Bill Wisner. He's a World War II ace, one of the leading men over there. And I thought, God, I'm flying his wing. I've got to be sure I really do a good job. So we get up there and we run into the MiGs, flying around and maneuvering around. The first thing you do when you get in combat, you get your drop tanks off. You be sure your guns are all fired up and you're 100%. You're bending that throttle up. And I'm maneuvering, flying his wing, and in the course of maneuvering around, I overrun him. And I'm not pulling back, and he's trying to shoot at this MiG, and he's still not gaining a place on him. And he looks up and he says, Red 2, are you at my 11 o'clock position? I said, oh, God, here I am. Here's the leader. Here I And I said, Raj, that's me. Well, he says, you're closer than I am. Get him. I said, beautiful. He tells me, and I swing in, and I get a couple of bursts into that MiG, and that's my first victory. He rolls over, I follow him down, and shooting all the way down, come back, and I'm not so sure. But old Bill Wisner said, oh, I saw him. He went in. He got that victory. And so that helps to get one under your belt. So I ended up flying over there, and 100 missions was it. In the meantime, I had really gotten 4, but in order to, one of my wingmen, Lieutenant Henderson, was real good. When I shot up this one, I ran up his tailpipe and I swung out to the side, and it was obvious he was going. My wingman calls, he says, Lee, can I pull in and shoot? I said, yes, you pull in. Let him have a shot at it, and he did. So when he got back on the ground, I said, that MiG was shared between me and my wingman, and I did it again with another one. So actually, rather than having 4, I had 3, but I said, gee, I'm really in there. I can get 2 more. I wanted to get that ace category. Well, as I'm coming up on high 80s, I'm getting up pretty close to 90 missions, and I can't run into them. I can't run into them. As a matter of fact, I'm staying up there too far. The word bingo meant minimum fuel to pull out and head back. Well, I'd go by bingo all the time. I'd let the rest of the crew back. And actually, the operations officer called me and said, Paul, you've got to start leaving the combat area with plenty of fuel. We're not going to be responsible for you running out of fuel up there. And he said, furthermore, this goes in your Form 5. I hereby certify I've been repeatedly briefed to leave the combat area, and I signed it and put it in there. It didn't change my mode of operation. So now I'm getting into the 90s, and nothing is happening. So I said, well, I don't need more combat hours, sorties. So I started logging training missions. At the end of the month, when they turn in for headquarters, the number of sorties we've flown in combat, it doesn't balance. And they can't figure out why. And they go back with all the Form 5s, people start going through there, who flew on this day, and then my name pops up. Wait a minute. He flew a training mission. The hell he flew a training mission. I was flying with him. And then they got into my Form 5 and found I was writing training missions, and the boss called me and said, Paul, you can't do that. I said, I really feel like I'm a valuable qualified pilot. I want to stay just a little longer. And he said, well, then file for a 25 mission extension. I said, I will, but I can't tell anybody. So I didn't want my family back there to know that I could be, particularly with a new bride, I could be coming back with them. So I filed for an extra 25 missions. And, everything is happenstance. Be there at the right place at the right time. I was trying everything to get another couple of victories. And it just wouldn't come my way. And after I'd flown about 18 of my 25...
Now, were you getting encounters along all this time? Or
I was getting close, but not to where I chased one. I'll tell you real now. I almost chased him to Mukden. Mukden is so far up past the Yalu River into Chinese territory. But I couldn't close on him, and that MiG at high altitude a lot lighter,
Yeah.
and he was up in there, and I really had my wingman break it off, and I went up in there, and I said, there's no way I can close on that guy. I am really pushing the envelope. So when I had about 18 missions, I decided I'll put in to go to Hong Kong on an R&R, change my luck, come back, and then maybe I did. I'm on R&R down to Hong Kong with this other guy. Went down. We got over there. It did 3 or 4 days down there. I primarily wanted to buy a lot of bargains and got ready. I get back to my place. I walk in, and there on my bunk is my orders. Clear the base and go home. I said, wait a minute. I grab my orders and I go in to see the commander. I knew him real well. I said, hey, what is this? I said, you know, you talked me into I could fly 25 more, and I've only flown 18 of them. I said, you can't send me home now. He says, Paul, the minute you left for Hong Kong, the members of your flight came in to see me. And they said, Paul is pushing the limit. It's not fair that he is starting to take all these chances just to score 2 more victories. And if we stood around and let him do that and then get shot down and not get back home, we would regret it. The commander agreed. He says, we don't, not so hard up for pilots. We need to let someone that risky do it. So he called me and he said, Paul, he said, that's it. I made the decision. Your orders are cut. You got 1 day to clear. Get on a cargo and go over to Tokyo. And I said, oh, damn, I'm going. I said, well, isn't there any way I could just have one last flight in an F-86, even if it's local? And they looked at me and said, yeah, there's one. I was on test orders. They said, yeah, we got a test a test plane. After the mission goes, you run it up, go out over the bay there, and do about a 30-minute check. I said, okay, good. So after they went, I went and got the armor, and I said, armor? I said, you know, this airplane hadn't been shooting. They think it needs bore sighting. I said, pull, when it's not in combat, they leave the armament down and not in what they call the belt feed pawl of the 50 caliber. I said, pull them up. I want to shoot some tracer shots just to see where the pipper lines up. Okay, so he went out and loaded it. Then I went and got the crew chief, and I said, Chief, I said, this thing, are you sure both those drop tanks are feeding good? And he says, yeah, I haven't been well, he said, I heard they weren't. And I said, put a full load in. So he loaded it up. You know what I was doing. I got in that airplane.
Did you ever become a used car salesman along your career sometime here? I mean, I'm just listening to what you've been doing here, man.
Yeah.
You've been a natural in that.
Let me say, I might have known how to figure the angles. So I got in this airplane, and boy, I headed north. I got up there, and the combat is all going on up there, but they're leaving now. The mission was structured to suppress the MiGs during the time we were getting the F-84s and bombing the MSR, main supply routes. So by the time I got up there, I went up and down the Yalu. I couldn't find a MiG. I couldn't find a damn thing to shoot. And I said, son of a gun. Well, here I am all on my own up there. Nobody knows where I am. So I'm thinking, well, come on, go back. So I'm thinking, well, I think I ought to just shoot my guns. And we had been briefed that a lot of these haystacks off of the side of the main MSR were really dumping places where they would camouflage to put their trucks loaded with ammo in there, and they would hide them during the day and then move them at night. So I said, I'll just run down this main MSR and put a few bursts in every haystack I come to. So I'm running down there shooting up all the haystacks. Oh, I'm doing real good, having a time. And all of a sudden I look up and I said, whoa, I'm running into a major town. Now it was Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. I said, Jesus Christ, if I pull up now, it's loaded with ack-ack. That means I will be an easy mark. Now, the only way I can get by Pyongyang and not be shot down is to get as fast and as low as I can, even go between the buildings. So I did. I 100% power. I burned you. And I went.
Shades of running the canal down the Tamiami Trail, huh?
Yeah. So I went roaring down through Pyongyang, and I cut off a few shots to help drop their heads and they hear bullets flying. So by the time I got back to the base, I pull in and land. The whole front end of my airplane is black from the bullets, you know.
Sure.
And when there's been shooting, they say, "Wow, what did you get into on that?" I said, "Well, it needed a real good test hop." And I said, "I've been out over the water shooting guns." Another sortie, not counted, but